So here we are with Joe Teti, Discovery Channel star of Dual Survival, Force Recon Marine, Special Forces, OGA, and all that jazz. So thanks for being with us tonight, Joe.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I want to get started by asking you, in regards to the Dual Survival, did you know of the show before you were on it?
Yeah, I used to watch the show with my girlfriend, and I actually watched the first, pretty much half of the first season and all of the second season. I was a pretty big fan of the show, actually.
Okay. So you kind of knew about all the, goofy things and, stuff on the show and everything that goes on the show with, like, Codys Feet. Everybody always asked about that and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you actually get into auditioning for that role?
Actually, believe it or not, a very good friend of mine, Mike Donatelli, who unfortunately was killed in a a helicopter crash shooting a show with me about a week ago. He was the one that told me about it. And when he first told me about it, I was like, they've probably got so many guys turning in their names, it's not even worth it. And he was prodding me along, and I finally turned my name in. And, it was a month or two later that I ended up getting a phone call saying, hey, you're down to the top 20, then you're down to the top 10, and then I was down to the top 5.
Right.
And the 5 of us went out to Arizona and did a chemistry test with Cody.
Okay.
And I got picked.
Okay. So what's your first impressions of the crew, of making an episode, and what goes into that, and, how hard is it and difficult is it?
Yeah, man, let me tell you, I'm new to TV, but there's one thing I can tell you. I know a professional when I see one and when I work with one, and I can tell you this, everybody from the lowest on the totem pole to the highest on the totem pole, they're all highly experienced people. You have to have a very special crew to shoot a show like Dual Survival. It's not a show for a novice producer or a novice cameraman or a novice AP or a novice sound guy. These guys are highly experienced people.
Yeah, because when you look at the environment and such, you have, hippos and elephants and snakes, all kinds of stuff around you. These cameramen also have it, and everybody on the show also has it around them probably twice as much.
Correct, and they do. You just have to remember, everywhere Cody and I go, there's got to be 2 cameramen. So whether that's at the bottom of a valley or, I was in a mine shaft starting out in New Mexico. Our director of photography, Derek Carver, was down there with me. I wish people could see more behind the scenes of what it takes to make a show like that. Right. Because I think if you saw it, you'd actually be amazed.
Yeah. I've seen some behind the scenes in the past and such, and some interviews with Cody, and it's just amazing what they can do. Because, whatever you're doing, the cameraman, on top of holding all the pounds he's holding with the camera and all the gear, he's right there with you.
Absolutely, man. It's amazing. These guys are truly very athletic men. From the sound guy, Bert, to Mr. Carver, Russ Phil, who's the other cameraman, to the producers. They've got to be right there with us. And I can tell you right now, for example, when we were in Chile, when I had to go up and get the ice, I was at 17,200 feet. They had to haul their cameras up there, and, granted, they were on supplemental oxygen. I wasn't, but they were on supplemental. That's all.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about military survival versus what you do on Dual Survival. Can you explain the difference and, the contrast there?
Sure. Well, first off, everybody in Special Operations goes to a survival school, whether you're in the Marine Corps or the Navy or in the SEALs or Army Special Forces or Air Force CCT, PJ, whatever. Everybody has their own version of SEER school. What you have to understand is the Army's version of SEER school, it's 3 weeks long, but only 1 week of it is actually survival stuff where you're skinning animals and starting fires. The rest of it has really nothing to do with civilian week of it is actually survival. So what you have to understand is, for me as a special operations guy, to be in a survival situation on a real mission, you done screwed up real bad. Real bad.
Right.
So it's not really applicable to military survival, because if you had to rub sticks together in a military soft mission, you done screwed up in a bad way, bad way.
Right, your mission is to go in, get it done, and get out.
Yeah, and you're going to have a lighter with you. You
right.
know, I mean, if you had to make a fire, I mean, you're going to have water with you. And if you run out of food and water, if you're in E&E mode, they're going to drop you in water and food.
Right.
So it's not like you're going to have to hunt animals and make snares. You just would never do that.
Right, and that's what the show is pretty much about, right? I mean, it's taking someone in this environment and their brain and their thoughts, and someone in Cody's environment and his thoughts, and trying to get them together to survive dually and seeing the contrast there.
Correct. Pretty much my take on my part of the show is my mindset when it comes to survival. Granted, Cody's got all this primitive skills to start fire and shelter and all that, and I know how to make shelter and collect water and make snares, but it's about the mindset of a special operations guy. That's what they were looking for.
Right. So, as far as the episodes go, there's been, I think, 6 now. What's the most goofiest thing or the bonehead thing you've done so far?
Well, I can tell you the most boneheaded thing. They didn't even get on video or on cameras. I busted my butt really hard in Nicaragua on my first episode. I'd fallen down this hill, and I probably rolled about, a good 50 or 60 feet down the side of the volcano. I didn't get hurt or anything, but it was just, I wasn't paying attention where I was stepping, and I slipped on a root, and down I went. But, the boneheaded thing, actually, in Nicaragua, I was climbing down the Cody, and I grabbed for a tree, and it broke off.
I was going to ask you about that.
And I almost fell. That would have, if it wouldn't have killed me, it would have broken several, back, arms, legs. Yeah, it would have been hurt bad.
I was going to ask about that, because that looked pretty severe.
Yeah. I was very lucky that I still had 3 points of contact on the rock and on the route that I was climbing down. So, that could have been really ugly, because I wouldn't have landed on the ground. I would have landed on rocks.
Right.
So it probably would have killed me.
Yeah. What about the last episode with the fish that you brought into the boat?
Yeah, that was in Zambia. We were just trolling along, and I had asked what kind of fish were in that water, and I was told there were catfish, big catfish, and this other type of fish, but no one really mentioned tigerfish. And when I saw that thing, I was like, good Lord. It was like a piranha on steroids. And it was actually funny, because after we caught it and I cleaned it, I touched its tooth, I cut its head off, and it was so sharp, it pricked me like a needle. It actually pricked my finger. Yeah, it was that pointy.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, if it would have bit you, you would have known it.
Yeah. So as far as, is there anything special you do to get ready for the show? I mean, do you pound the water, or, I'm sure you work out. I know you have a workout routine.
Yeah, I work out for sure, but then, if I know where we're going, they don't give us too much information in the beginning, because they don't want us to game it. So, gaming it by knowing where we're going, but we'll get an idea, like, okay, you're going to South Africa. So we will read an area assessment on that area, and I say it all the time to people: if you're going into austere conditions, you better know about the environment you're going into.
Right. So
read. Go online and read. So I would read about the plants and the animals and the terrain and the temperature and the weather and everything. So I did about that, and that's all survival. It's being situationally aware of what you're doing.
Right.
And a lot of people, they just don't do it, and they end up paying a big price for it.
Yeah, that's what kind of leads them into the situation of having to survive.
That's right. Exactly, bro. Exactly.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about the mental aspect versus the physical of surviving. This even applies to pretty much anything in life.
Sure.
Mental versus physical. What are your thoughts on that? You've been in, military, now you've been, on all these, dual survival episodes with Cody. Mental gets,
Well,
you know.
dude, I'll be honest with you, man. I've said it on the show many, many times. The will to survive will always beat the skills to survive. And I believe that wholeheartedly. You give me a person, I don't care if you can't build a fire or build a shelter or catch animals, but if you're a hardcore survivor in your head and you're going to do whatever you need to do to get from point A to point B, that is the person I want to be in a survival situation with, because they have the I'm not going to quit attitude. If you have, I think it's Ron White, the comedian, has a saying, if you have a lot of quit in you, in a survival situation, you're dead.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, you will not make it.
Yeah.
You will.
Yeah, I can speak to that as well.
Yeah. It's never going to happen, man. You got to get over the cold, the wet, the tired, the hungry. You're probably going to have diarrhea. You're probably going to have a headache from dehydration. Stomach pains from being hungry. You've got to filter all that stuff out of you and be able to work beyond your being uncomfortable.
Yeah, you got to keep the light at the end of the tunnel constantly in your view.
And whatever that light at the end of the tunnel is, whether it's thinking about your family, thinking about your job, thinking about your kids, your wife, whatever it is, you have got to focus on that. And it's got to be crystal clear in your head, because if you start slipping, you've had it, man.
Yeah. So, what do you think of Codys Feet now that you've been on there? I know that one of the questions you asked him, I saw one of the videos, I think the first time you guys met or whatever, you said you wanted to see his feet.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah, he's been barefoot for over 20 years. The only time he puts on sandals is if we've gone somewhere and he's not allowed in a restaurant, he'll put on sandals. But, his feet are extremely tough. They feel almost like leather. He has built up a very high tolerance to walking on very uncomfortable terrain, hot sand, rocks. I mean, it's pretty amazing, man. He's increased his mitochondria in his feet and his legs, because he goes in shorts all the time. So over the years, he has just built himself up a very high tolerance to cold and just being uncomfortable in shorts. So, but that takes years, man. That's pretty amazing if you ask me.
Yeah, going from the start of that to where he is now, that's...
Yeah, dude, that would be very tough.
I'm sure the first 5 years are just insane.
Yeah.
So,
I'm telling you.
So, as far as the show goes, what do you see something that you have kind of maybe put something in Cody's brain, and what's something that, on the show that Cody's kind of put in your brain that maybe you guys didn't focus on or know before? Or...
I think with me, it put in Cody's brain is that my entire survival philosophy is to get off the X, meaning get off the danger zone, get off the ambush site, which the survival situation is the ambush, as fast as I possibly can. And if I have to walk 50 miles in 2 days, I've done it before. I know I can do it. I think his whole mindset of being methodical and mind's like, let's go, he has to understand that every minute that I'm out there, in my mind, my chances of surviving are going down and down and down and down and down. With him, he believes that too, but because of his skill level, he can extend that.
Right.
But for me, I am looking at it like, the time, the clock's ticking, and I've got to catch the clock before the alarm goes off. And
okay.
so,
right.
With him, I would say, putting in my mind, wow, that's a good one. Cody is supremely confident when it comes to his skill set. And until I actually started working with him and seeing what he was capable of doing, I believed it but I believe it more now that I've seen it.
Right.
So he has kind of instilled a strange sense of confidence in his abilities, and that only comes with time. And now that I've shot 10 episodes with him, he's no bullshit. He has probably forgotten more about survival than most people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Just watching the show, you can gather that. Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
So, being in a dual survival mode, I'm sure this goes both ways, but, at times, and I know it's probably frustrating that you want to go route A and he wants to go route B.
Sure.
Like the tree that had the bats in. I mean, something like that, where
Sure.
you guys are like completely opposite ends of the spectrum. I mean, how frustrating can that be for both of you?
Oh man, it's very frustrating, especially when it comes to shelter, where you have one that was, in my opinion, that baobab tree, was a no-brainer. But Cody was more worried about the bat crap and the disease he was speaking of, and which they didn't show on the show. There's only 3 people that are actually susceptible to getting it: infants, the elderly, and people that have compromised immune systems.
Okay.
Everyone else is pretty safe. So again, it's that what his perception of the danger is and what my perception of the danger is, 2 different things.
Right.
My perception of the danger there were the animals, the lions, the hippos, the Cape buffalo, the elephants. Those are real imminent danger type things. And to him, he was worried about the bat feces. So, at the end of the day, though, man, you've got to come together, and in a survival situation, you really want to sleep in the same area.
Right.
Just for protection reasons. 1 is none, 2 is 1.
Right.
So, we've really only slept apart twice, and that was in South Africa. He slept in a tree, and I slept on the ground.
Yeah, was that one of the first ones you guys did together?
Actually, they shoot him, but they don't show him in sequence. That was about the 5th episode.
Okay, so you guys had a good feel for each other at that point.
Yes, exactly.
So in the Poacher episode, my thought about that is that, at least up to this point, seems like overall one of the more dangerous episodes you guys have been on. Where left and right, you guys had stuff coming at you or stepping on or.
Yeah, dude. The thing with the Poachers there, which I didn't know, the game rangers have been authorized in South Africa to shoot on sight poachers, period.
Mm-hmm.
And the Poachers know that. So what do you think they're going to do if they bump into people?
Right.
They have nothing to lose. They're going to shoot first and ask questions later. So, yeah, that whole episode almost went away. For insurance reasons and stuff. It was just pretty dicey, but we pressed on.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the more incredible ones I've seen over the last 3 years, personally. I was actually thinking Codys Feet when you came up across that poacher trap or whatever. For the elephants.
That would have been the end of that would have been it.
Yeah, that's insane.
That would have gone through the bottom of my shoes.
Really?
Oh,
that's amazing.
Yeah, they would have gone through for sure.
I mean, how much of that stuff did you see that wasn't on camera? How much of that crap that you guys are walking around that?
Actually, everything that we saw, the snares, the one that Cody found, the one I found, and then the actual nail traps, that's all that was there. Nothing else. But, that would have been really, really ugly if one of us would have stepped on one of those things. That would have been, that would have been the end of the show, for sure.
Yeah. So, if you could choose, would you prefer to have a hot environment or a cold environment?
Oh, hot by far.
And why is that? Why you just don't like the cold?
And I've never liked operating in the cold. One of our last episodes, we were in minus 30.
Wow.
And, dude, it was so painful, it hurt to go to the bathroom. I would much rather be in 120-degree weather than minus 20. That's just personal preference.
I mean, why is that? What do you see more as a benefit of hot than cold?
Well, for me personally,
you,
I can't stand being cold. Unless I'm skiing in it and I can, go into a lodge and have a drink or something and warm up or get near a fire. But yeah, man, I've never been a big cold fan. And, you can always cool down. Like in South Africa, you could always get in the water and cool down.
Right.
But in the extreme cold, unless you have a fire and the ability to make a fire, you're going to freeze.
Yeah, that's how I kind of see it. You can't get warm.
You would have froze to death at night.
Right.
You would not have woke up in the morning without a fire. It was that cold.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah, it was -30 during the day, so at night it even got colder.
Yeah. Wow. So I want to ask you about what I would see as one of your comfort items. I see a lot of pictures of you with your black Polar Tech jacket. To me, it almost looks like like your blankie. It's like something you love that thing. It seems like in the pictures and everything.
As a matter of fact, I just got done washing it. Yeah, man. Yeah, I love fleece is great, except when it rains.
Right. When
it rains, that stuff does not dry out quick, and you're going to be in a hurt locker. It's not wool. Wool will at least keep you warm. Fleece, when it's wet, it's a mess. But when it's dry, and if the wind's not blowing, because it's not obviously wind resistant. But I love fleece. I mean, it's God's gift to the outdoorsman. But I love it, and that's one thing I'll tell people is like, whatever you can afford to buy, the better gear you have, the better. Like my boots, I wear a solo boots. I've wore every kind of boot there is out there, Merrell's and you name it. But I wore a solo boots in Afghanistan, Iraq, and I wear them on the show as well. I love them.
Yeah, I mean, where would you go with, if it was raining or windy? I mean, what would you recommend to people that are getting in the survival game?
Sure, man. If you're going to a wet climate, obviously you're going to need some kind of Gore-Tex. But even Gore-Tex, everybody thinks it's waterproof. It is not. If it's pouring down rain, it's going to soak up the water eventually. But having some really good, North Face makes great stuff. Columbia makes great stuff. Mountain Hardware makes great stuff. But all of these companies, that's high-end gear. A Mountain Hardware jacket's going to run you, $200, $250. A North Face Summit Series jacket, they go up to almost $600.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm here to tell you,
there's a reason.
Yeah, if you can afford it, those are the items that you can definitely count on when the shit hits the fan, so to speak.
Right.
They're very good quality pieces of gear. Obviously, long underwear. I wear this Columbia. They just came out with it last year. It's Columbia long johns, and I can't remember the exact name of it, but they're extremely warm. Even to socks. I wear socks. This gentleman that I met, he owns a company called Covert Socks, and the guy's a former Marine, and he has made these socks so intricately. The way they're designed, the way they breathe and everything. I've worn them on the show. They're amazing. So it's knowing where you're going, what the environment is, based on that, based on the environmentals. That's the kind of kit you need to wear. And again, I know it's a function of money, but over the years, I've collected a lot of gear. I've collected a lot of kits. So, but it's do your homework. I keep saying it, man. Do your freaking homework.
Yeah, nowadays with all the reviews and everything on websites, it's kind of like a no-brainer with things.
Exactly. So it's all based on what your pocketbook can handle.
Right. Right. So the Boar episode, what was that experience like? I mean, I know you said that was one of your favorite parts of the entire show so far that you were shooting. I mean, what was that experience like? How long did you have to sit there? I mean, hunting is not like a immediate thing.
I wanted to hunt a boar. When I first got there, I was told they were everywhere on the island. The place was infested with them. So I'm like, all right, well, I've got a good chance of hunting one of these things. But obviously the situation had to present itself. I had about 5 hours from the time I was talking to Cody to the time I had to get back before the sun went down to obviously find my way back to where he was to accomplish the mission. So when I found, as we were walking, I didn't know what I was going to do with it when I found it, but it's just like, this is coming with me. It don't weigh anything. I scrunched it all up and jammed it in the backpack.
And what was that? Sorry, it would cut out for a little bit.
Yeah, the chicken wire fence.
Okay, chicken wire fence.
Yeah, I found that along the creek, and I knew I could use that. I just didn't know what I was going to use it for at the time, but it didn't weigh anything. I just crunched it up and stuck it in the backpack. So, and subsequently, I ended up using it to funnel this boar into an ambush site. So, but yeah, man, I was there for about 4 hours, and I basically got a time hack from the producers. Like, dude, you got about 30 minutes left, and if it don't happen, we're done. You know, I'm like, Jesus. And literally, about 5 minutes later, I started smelling one because they stink. You can smell them from a mile away. Oh my God. And it worked perfect. Boars, when they walk, they don't pick their feet up. They drag them. And they're very easy to snare. And but very hard to kill.
Right. And that's where you were, you had it snared, then you had to go dispatch it. I mean, you were using your knife. I think that's actually your knife, right?
Correct. Yeah, I speared it first with a through-and-through shot, and it dropped it down on its front legs, and then I jumped on its back, and I dispatched it quickly and humanely with my knife. I severed its spine, and actually, after I gutted it, I looked at it. It severed its spine, and then it actually punctured about that far down into its heart. So it did a really, the knife did a fantastic job in killing this animal very quickly. Because I'll be honest with you, man, I'm not a big hunter. I hunted when I was a kid, but that's probably the hardest thing for me on the show is killing animals. And I know people that are watching this are probably going, what? But, you know, I mean, I have 2 cats. As a matter of fact, my one cat was sitting right here. I don't even kill bugs in my house. I'll actually take a bug and put it outside, and I think that just comes from my experiences in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places. I mean, it's just life has a very unique meaning to me. But in a survival situation, you know, you got to do what you got to do. But, you know, what I would tell people is if you're going to kill an animal, kill it quickly.
Right, exactly.
Be a professional about it. And if you think you're tackling something that you're not going to be able to do, don't do it. That boar was right at the edge of don't know. But I felt confident with my experience and my mindset that I could pull it off.
Yeah, and that actually leads into another question that I wanted to get to, also in the tactical questions we're going to get into. But I mean, that gets into a question of, you know, people understanding violence of action. I mean, you had to go into that knowing that you have to be more violent than that boar to, you know, do what you did.
Sure. What I relied on when I killed that boar were the tenets of CQB, which is speed, surprise, and violence of action. Speed is pretty self-explanatory. Surprise is pretty self-explanatory, but violence of action is very, sometimes it's misunderstood. Violence of action is a mindset, and it is a overwhelming, domineering feeling that when you enter a room and you're going to do CQB, that I am better trained than you, you know, you don't have a chance, and you've got to put yourself into that mind frame and that mindset. And that's what I did with that boar. I took myself to a place where I get the feeling of superiority as far as like this animal doesn't have a chance. Once it's in the kill zone and it's snared, it's dead.
Right.
And it's the same thing in war, man. Doing CQB, you can't go into a room and be a little bit pregnant. You need to go in there with your head screwed on straight, or the bad guys are going to unscrew it for you.
Exactly. Yeah, and I get to that with people with their, you know, self-protection, self-defense. I mean, sure. If you have an attacker coming at you, you have to have a mindset that they're going to go down, or you're in for a problem.
And again, that goes back to, you know, the skill to survive and the will to survive. You know, it's all up here, man. It's easy to do this. You know,
yeah.
It's about 5 pounds of pressure, but you better have it upstairs before you even think about doing something like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. I guess I got 2 last questions here for our dual survival questions we're going through here. I mean, in your experience, you know, snakes. It didn't seem like you liked snakes in the one episode. And how good do they blend? Because I mean, I've been down doing operations in Arizona, and rattlesnakes are prevalent there. You know, I have pictures of them right next to me. I mean, they blend in so well.
Yeah, man. I'm not a big snake fan. I don't have a phobia for snakes, but I respect them, especially venomous snakes. And what's actually funny, a lot of people don't even know, young rattlesnakes and young pit vipers are way more dangerous than the adults. The reason being is when a venomous snake bites you, an adult will probably not envenomate you on the first bite, because when snakes bite and envenomate a person, it weakens their body big time, and they know that as they mature. So what they'll do is they'll strike you first to kind of like say, hey, get the hell out of here, and if you don't leave, the second bite, they're going to envenomate you. But the young snakes are so young, the first time they bite you, they dump all of their venom in you. Not some of it, all of it. And a lot of people don't know that. So a young rattlesnake is much more dangerous than a full-grown adult.
Right. Yeah, that kind of gets back to like...
It's hard to see. They're superbly well camouflaged.
Yeah, it kind of gets back to scorpions, too. I mean, people think, oh, the larger the scorpion, the worse it's going to be. And in reality, it's actually the tiny little bastards that will
That's
get
right,
you.
man. Because they do the same thing. They can't control the amount of venom that they're stinging you with because they're kids, babies. They haven't learned that a little bit is better than a lot of it. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, when you skin that hide off that, what was it? It was disgusting. Yeah, I mean, what was your thoughts? I know by the end of the show, because I was saying this to my fiance, I was saying, they didn't use it.
Well, actually, we did. They just didn't show it.
Oh, what'd you use it for?
Yeah, when we got to that big tree where we ate the snake, I actually set it down for us to use as a mat to sit on.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Now, and the whole idea with that was I didn't know we were going to use it or not. But my whole point was it was an asset and a resource that I could use. Obviously, the meat was no good, but the hide was fine.
Right.
But it was getting over that comfort zone of skinning that damn thing. You know, it smelled so bad, I literally couldn't eat steak for 3 months when I got home.
Whoa.
It was that bad, dude. It was that bad. But again, it was a learning point for people. Look, I didn't like doing it. It sucked. But in a survival situation, you have got to come over that comfort zone. If you can't step your game up, you know,
and that was
very uncomfortable for me. I've got a pretty weak stomach. I was dry heaving the whole freaking time, and if I would have thrown up, that would have been really bad.
Yeah, because then you'd be throwing away fluids.
They just didn't show it.
Right.
They edited it out. Yeah.
Yeah. How much of that does get edited out? I mean, you probably have
dude. Bro,
3 days worth of film?
Shoot for 5 days.
Wow.
12 to 14 hours a day for 43 minutes. You tell me how much they edit.
Yeah, I was gonna say. They probably edit out 90% of it.
About 90%, yeah.
Yeah.
That's about right.
Wow.
Yep.
So the last question here would be, and this is a viewer question. How long are you signed on for? They really want to see more. They really like, the way it's going.
I signed basically a contract that has a 3-year option. So if they decide to run it again, they'll just exercise my option for another year. But we won't know that for probably another month or so. Discovery's got a lot of good shows on, and we're competing against very, very popular shows like Gold Rush and Moonshiners and all these other shows. So I have nothing to do with that. Zero. They will call me one day and either say we're not doing it again or we are.
All right, so you guys aren't signed up for a third or fourth season then, right? On that show.
I would love to do it, yeah.
But they haven't given it the green light yet, right?
I'm sorry?
They haven't given it the green light yet, right?
No. They probably need a few more episodes to run so they can get the ratings, and get an average. And I don't even know what number they need.
Right.
They don't share that kind of information. So keep my fingers crossed, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's going to conclude our dual survival talk here.
Okay.
Thanks for being with us here. and talking. And I'm going to put your links down below because you have, you have your knife, your Facebook. You have a lot of links down there that people can go to. So I'll put those in the description box for all the viewers.
That's josephteti.com, and then my training company, which is loanoperatorinc.com.
Okay, well, I'll put those down there for the viewers. And thanks for being here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Let's do it again.